Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. This is a special edition of All In. As concern about the rapidly spreading coronavirus tanked stock markets for the second day in a row, today, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention warned it's only a matter of time until the virus spreads to communities right here in the United States. The head of the CDC's National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Diseases said in a briefing today, quote, "It is not so much a question of if this will happen anymore, but rather more a question of exactly when this will happen and how many people in this country will have severe illness." Now, almost 3,000 people around the world have already died, the majority of them in China. The Trump administration seems, at this moment, just completely unprepared for what the CDC now says is inevitable. At a press conference in India, President Donald Trump claimed coronavirus is, quote, very well under control in our country, adding, quote, "I think the whole situation will start working out." President's National Economic Council Director, Larry Kudlow, told CNBC, We have contained this. I won't say airtight, but pretty close to airtight. I should tell you that's also the guy who told Americans to buy stocks in September of 2008 as the economy was crashing. Now, another one of the president's talented minds, acting Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf, was testifying on Capitol Hill today. The Department of Homeland Security is the agency coordinating the U.S. government's response to coronavirus. And today, his testimony did not go well. Just take a listen for a second here. Republican Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana absolutely ripping Wolf for failing to do his job.
How is it transmitted?
A variety of different ways, Senator.
Tell me what they are, please.
Again, human to human is what we've primarily seen.
Human to human, how? What's the mortality rate so far, nationwide?
I believe it's
worldwide.
Worldwide, I believe it's under 2%.
How much under 2%?
I'll get you an exact figure.
Okay, what's the mortality rate for influenza over the last, say, 10 years in America?
It's also right around that percentage as well. I don't have that offhand, but it's right around 2% as well.
You sure of that?
It's a little bit, yes, sir. You're asking me a number of medical questions that
I'm asking
CDC
you questions
and
because you're Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, and you're supposed to keep us safe.
Yes, sir.
And you need to know the answers to these questions.
All right, just to be clear there, you saw that exchange where he asked the mortality rate. He said it was 2%, and then he said, is the flu the same? And he said, yeah, the flu is the same. That's completely not true. Just utterly untrue. The mortality rate for the influenza is not 2%, as acting head of DHS testified to the Senate. It's not on par with coronavirus. It's more like 0.1% or about 20 times lower than coronavirus. Chad Wolf has been the acting head of Homeland Security for 3 months now. He could barely answer those questions that would pop up if you did a Wikipedia search on coronavirus. Meanwhile, the actual professionals, the people who are not Trump lackeys, they're saying, no, this is coming to the U.S. The same CDC official who warned about the inevitability of the virus coming to the U.S. said that she told her children this morning, while I do not think they were at risk right now, we as a family ought to be preparing for significant disruption to our lives. So there's that. And that does not even get to what is happening internationally. Earlier today, the guy in charge of limiting the spread of coronavirus in Iran, the deputy health minister, announced he was among the new patients infected by the virus. He learned of his diagnosis after this press conference where he looked visibly ill and was wiping his brow and coughing. Also today, a senior member of the International Olympic Committee told the Associated Press, if the games cannot be held in Tokyo, quote, you are probably looking at a cancellation. It's worth noting the Olympics have never been canceled outside of a world war. On Wall Street, as I mentioned, the Dow closed nearly 900 points lower, following a 1,000-point slide the day before. And the sell-off wiped out $1.7 trillion of U.S. stock market value in just 2 days. And that is what matters most to Donald Trump. As thousands of people die and as a pandemic threatens to spread across the world and this country, there is one thing that is clear from the administration's response. They are worried about how the global pandemic will help or hurt Donald Trump's re-election chances. Do you remember back in 2014 when citizen Donald Trump was hoping to bring down President Barack Obama? He was absolutely banging on about Ebola because he thought that would hurt Obama.
Our country has enough problems. Send the doctors to Liberia. Send the doctors to West Africa to take care of our people. That's one thing. But don't let them in. I think very few people trust our government as being competent. Let's not kid ourselves. I mean, we have virtually incompetent leadership. So why would anybody trust our government to handle this crisis?
Now, Trump is president, and the reporting indicates he's worried that all this stuff will be bad. It'll be bad for markets, and it'll be bad for his reelection. And that is what he's worried about. So the president's out here saying, nothing is here, folks, everything's fine, because he wants to convince everyone that everything is fine so that he can get reelected. But that's not the president's primary job. No, the president's job is to deal with the actual governing problems that the head of state faces and to keep Americans safe.